This is TWiT.
Peter Thiel, The Art of the Teal, best headline this week. Thank you very much, Stephen Levy. You're reviewing a new book by Max Chafkin, The Contrarian. What do you think?
Well, I think, Max, he oversells it a little, by trying to play up Thiel's influence on Silicon Valley, make it bigger what it is. But by and large, it's a fascinating biography of a guy who is important and a little terrifying in some areas, but in other areas, it really is revealing about that strain of Silicon Valley, the ultra-libertarian whose real allegiance is towards just the, monopolies and accumulation of money, really. Thiel, it's interesting. He's been very, very active of late in defense technology, the places he funds. And, I don't know, do we need to go backwards and actually say who he is to begin with?
We could say early investor. If you watched the Social Network movie, he was the early investor who gave the seed money to Mark Zuckerberg so that Facebook could start. But he also founded Palantir, which is kind of a notorious semi-evil spy company, basically, right?
Yeah, and he actually co-founded PayPal. He was involved in
the PayPal mafia too. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually helped fire Elon Musk from PayPal, which is something not many people can say, right?
That's a claim to fame. The thing I think is most interesting is that Thiel is basically unapologetic about saying, look, my philosophy is companies should become monopolies because then you don't have to worry about competition. Make as much money as you can. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and support. He was a big supporter of Donald Trump early in the campaign in 2016 because I gather he felt like this guy would be friendly to monopolies.
And also, the Founders Fund, which is Thiel's VC firm, and it's where Palantir came from, and obviously Thiel was very involved in Palantir, and they have other defense companies. One of them I wrote about for Wired with Palmer Luckey, the virtual reality guy,
who's very similar in his philosophy, right?
Yeah, well, different. I think Palmer, he's not a Bond villain kind of guy. He's a fun lover.
He has a whole room dedicated to candy. I know that.
Yeah, I once went on a road trip to him to the Texas border to look at one of his installations of his technology. And the first thing we did, we got out of the plane in El Paso, went to a Whataburger, right? He's a real connoisseur of fast food. And but it's interesting, not just Thiel, but these other people who say that they're like super patriotic, these other people in the Trump sphere. And in Thiel's thing, he really is disdainful of the people at Google for bouncing, a contract with the government on AI. But it seems to me if these people are so patriotic, why don't they pay their taxes? Why do they keep thinking of imaginative ways to avoid paying the taxes that would help the United States defend itself and pay for this technology they're selling to the United States? Thiel is famous, and the book gets into this, for having this multi-billion-dollar Roth IRA, right? And this is something that was done to help people, of modest means do these little retirement accounts for their own use. And he figured out a way to twist it legally, I guess, but to make it worth billions and billions of dollars, which was not
being changed right now. To
untaxable.
You know what? No, actually,
the keyword's untaxable.
I actually told my daughter to immediately open a Roth IRA because she doesn't make enough money to be, I think you have to make under $144,000, but you could put money in there, after tax money in there, and any appreciation can be withdrawn at retirement without tax. That's the whole point of a Roth IRA.
The interesting thing he did was, the reason why
he put his PayPal stock in there.
Yeah. You're not
$1,700 worth of PayPal stock that is now worth more than $17 billion, I think.
Yeah, but anyway, it was,
but that was completely legal. I feel like Do you think he's evil? I mean, like, does he think he's like a Bond villain? He's saying, "Oh, I'm just going to decide I'm going to go on the dark side," or he has a philosophical basis that says, this makes sense. Why shouldn't people try to get as rich as they can?
Well, I think he's most evil when he secretly funded the Gawker lawsuit for revenge for writing about his, status, that he was a gay person.
For outing him.
Really. He wasn't really in a closet. It was one of those things that people around him knew about it. Anyone could find out about it, but they publicized it and kind of made fun of it. And he never forgot that. And he couldn't sue them for what they wrote about him, but he saw the Hulk Hogan suit as a means to do it. And he funded some other people. And he did that secretly. And a lot of people feel that if the jury had known that some secretive billionaire was funding the suit to close down the publication, things might have gone the other way in that lawsuit.
Virginia Heffernan's review has this great quote from the book about him and Musk. Peter thinks Musk is a fraud and a braggart. Musk thinks Peter is a sociopath.
Okay, not a lot of love lost.
No.
We should point out nothing Peter Thiel has done is illegal, including the Roth IRA.
That's a good summary, though. But that's a really good summary of those guys. I like that.
Isn't that?
It's hard to say. I'm the kind of person that I don't want to say he's an evil person. Everybody in their own mind thinks they're justified in their beliefs, right? Nobody says, I'm going to do the bad thing, the wrong thing.
Does the minority leader of the Senate think that?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. He believes he's doing the right thing for the country. Of course he does. And I think
after he closed down Gawker, he said, "This is the greatest public service I've ever done."
Yeah. No one's a villain in their own story. So and it's not like he's committed any crime. We might say he's reprehensible, but he's not criminal.
As Michael Tinsley said famously a long time ago, what the scandal's not what's illegal. The scandal's what's legal. So
that's a very good point. And if that Roth IRA loophole exists, I mean, let's be fair, Thiel put a valueless asset in there because you can't put a super valuable asset in it. He must have thought, well, this is going to appreciate. This would be a good place to stick it in case it does, so I can get the money out without tax. But it was a completely legal. Somehow he was under the income cap. I guess he decided not to take any salary.
That's been your standard throughout the show today, Leo, it's not illegal.
Well, but I guess to Dan's point about civics, the real place to go if this stuff is to say, let's make it illegal then. We shouldn't have tax laws that
make up his taxes.
No, he's doing what his point of view is. I'm going to do everything I can that's legal to maximize my profit.
Yeah,
I think it's a failure. It's our failure in this country to get across in the behavior like that is not patriotic.
It's antisocial.
Well,
we had a president who basically bragged that he wasn't paying taxes while he complained. We weren't spending enough money on defense. I feel that people should be shamed if they go to great lengths.
But Stephen, how do you do that then? So the shareholders of Twitter say to Jack, you have a fiduciary duty to us to maximize your profit. And if you don't, and you're not a public benefit corporation, and you just decide that you're going to pay more taxes because you want to, that doesn't wash in our current structure. Now, you want to change capitalism, okay, but in the structure of where it exists, it is up to I think Leo's point is right. Don't blame the company, blame the politicians. And when it comes to these international deals, the double Dutch sandwiches, blame the diplomats. Blame the government.
You know full well, Jeff, that capitalism does not demand that the leaders of the company do anything possible. That's a theory that's gained traction.
We all go to accountants and say, I don't want to pay more taxes than I have to. Everybody does that.
Yeah, but we don't hire lawyers to figure out ways where we could pay nothing for billions of dollars.
Well, it's probably prudent also to point out that the reason those laws exist is because the same people paid as much money as they could to Congress members to get those laws in place.
That's where the
maybe start with campaign finance reform. Maybe start with taking the money out of politics, because those laws exist entirely for that reason. The double Dutch sandwich doesn't exist because somebody said this will be good for the country. It exists because
we're not talking about we're not talking about a company. We're talking about Peter Thiel and what he's done in the imaginative way he's done, to avoid paying billions of dollars in taxes. At the same time, he touts being a patriot for building up our defense capabilities and helping the government surveil people.
Palmer, the thing that you visited that Palmer Luckey built was a surveillance system on the border, right? It was designed to support the wall.
Yeah, it was a smart wall, so to speak. And I have to say, that was an unbelievably fun trip.
It was almost like Hunter S. Thompson goes to Texas, right?
Yeah. We went there in this ranch. It had this amazing history where Texas Rangers had a kind of a border war, like back around the turn of the century. And, it had, the great characters, and we were way in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the closest, thing to where we were, like maybe about 40 miles away, was this little Prada art installation from near Marfa, we posed.
And let's not forget a Whataburger.
Well, that was on the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Very important.
And we stayed the night in a little place called Van Horn, Texas. And I wound up there a couple months later watching a launch of Blue Origin. So I think I've probably been the only journalist ever to go to Van Horn, Texas twice in 3 months for two different stories.
Somebody
Did you see Bill Shatner
there?
Go ahead, Dan.
Somebody used the word shame in this conversation.
That was me. That was me.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you can't really shame people who don't have any shame. They're proud of the stuff that we think is shameful. They're thinking, gotcha. That's their response to the idea. You can't possibly.
Well, if they're not greeted or snubbed by the people around them, that's different. Now the people who say gotcha are surrounded by other people like that. I mean, we have to change the mentality of it. Things can get changed.
That's norm setting. Yes. I mean, it's the same. I get people yelling at me when I say that it's time to shun and shame the anti-vaxxers. And no, we're still going to convince them. No, we've given plenty of time to convince them. And people get mad at me, and I don't care. So that's how we set norms in society, is by negotiating them, and is at some point by shunning and shaming people so that the price becomes too high.
But there has to be, for people like this, some sort of nihilism where they've decided everybody is pretending there's good and bad, but really everybody's out for themselves. And so I'm not doing anything everybody else is doing. There has to be some sort of mental gymnastics that they're performing. So I don't think they have shame. I think Donald Trump's a good example. I think it hurt him deeply that the elites of New York never accepted him, but I don't think he was shamed by them.
No.
If he had been, I didn't see any modification to the behavior. So, I don't think he showed any shame, and I doubt Peter Thiel feels ashamed of anything.
Well, and the biography kind of gets into the early days, and if you want to play like Cracker Barrel psychologist, you could say that he was bullied as a kid because he was kind of like a weird kid who just loved chess, and probably the people around him picked up that he was gay, and he were mean to him. They bullied him, and
so he buried shame. He said, "I'm not going to be ashamed of myself."
And then he goes to Stanford, and at Stanford, there's, at the time he went, there was a group of people. It wasn't the majority, but it was enough of a community of right wingers who really enjoyed making, owning liberals, let's say, and baiting them, that where he was accepted within that world there. So, so those tendencies as, very right-wing libertarianist kind of tendencies got rewarded from the people around him. And, and you want to say that helps explain it. I don't know. I mean, he's also an incredibly brilliant person. I mean, I haven't had much conversation with him, but I've met him a few times, and super, super smart guy. What can you say?
All I can say is I used to play a lot of chess, tournament chess at that age, and I was not shunned. Playing chess by itself is not necessarily shunning. Although I gather he's pretty good. You talk about him playing blindfold chess at a founders conference, which is not an easy.
Yeah, playing against Collison, the co-founder of Stripe, who was no slouch in intelligence himself.
Yeah.
I'll quote Heffernan again for one quick second, and some of your listeners may find this deeply offensive. Young Thiel had the usual dandruff club hobbies. He played Dungeons and Dragons, read Tolkien, and aced the SATs.
Story of my life. But you don't have to be a nihilist just because of that. I'm just saying. I think you can go a variety of ways. I'm not gay, so maybe that was what put him over the top. I don't know. Maybe he was shunned. Where did he grow up? Did he grow up in Texas? Where did he grow up?
No, it was
New Jersey,
California.
California. All right.
What do you got a problem with Jersey? Did you presume the guy's from Jersey?
Well,
what is this?
I'm just saying.
What is this? You got a problem with us?
A lot of people grew up in Jersey. You're a little warped. I'm just saying.
That explains everything.
Jeez.